Hello students, today's agenda is to check your homework. We're going to be evaluating functions and you're going to be able to do 6.2. So students will be able to evaluate functions in scenarios and given a function. So we have this scenario. A jug has 5 liters of water and you're adding 1 liter every minute. So remember that basically this is like our initial point, what we have right now. And what's happening is that we're adding 1 liter every minute. So if we're using now the function notation, instead of the y equals, we would say f of x is equals to the 5 liters that we have plus 1 liter that we add every minute. And so the input, another thing is that in here, if you don't want to put in fact, it will more traditionally known is that we don't put a 1 as a coefficient. So it would just be 5 plus x. Also, you might see that instead of writing 5 plus 1x, it would be 1x plus 5. It's exactly the same thing, but traditionally this is how it's written more than this way. The input in here will be the x, which represents what? The number of minutes. Okay, so number of minutes. And the output will be represented by the whole thing, which is f of x. And what does that represent? F of x represents the total number of liters in the jug. And I'm sorry that I'm not pronouncing that well, but I think it's jog. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's answer some questions. How many liters will there be after 6 minutes? How many liters will there be after 6 minutes? And so basically all we have to do is plug in our input into the function and that will give us our output. So it's going to be f of 6, that's the notation we would write, meaning the total liters after 6 minutes, that's what it will represent. So f of 6 is equals to 5 plus 1 times 6. Again, you can use either one, you will get the same answer. And it's the 5 that it had before plus the 1 for every 6 minutes. For 6 minutes, it's a total of 6 liters more, and so that's 11. Okay, so f of 6 is equals to 11. It means the total number of liters I get after 6 minutes is equals to 11. Okay. Okay, for the second question, we're gonna ask, what about after 11 minutes? Again, we would put f of 11, meaning after 11 minutes, I will have how many liters? Well, it's going to be 5 plus 1 times 11, which is 5 plus 1 times 11 is 11, which is 16. So f of 11 equals 16. meaning that after 11 minutes, I will have 16 liters. How much did it have when you started? And so it means when I start, it means that f of 0, right? When 0 minutes have gone by. And so f of 0 is equals to 5 plus 1 times 0. Remember that we're replacing the x only. And so that's equals to 5 plus 0, which is equals to 5. So when I start, I had 5 liters. How much did it have 2 minutes ago? Well, we'll learn in the previous quarter that minutes ago means time in the past. And in math, time in the past is represented with a negative number for x. And so we would say that it's f of 2 minutes ago, meaning negative 2, is equals to 5 plus 1 times negative 2. Again, kind of like subtracting the ones that I hadn't put yet. And so it's going to be 5. Positive 1 times negative 2 is negative 2, which is equals to 3, which makes sense. It means that 2 minutes before I started, that means that I'm going back in time, and I had 3 liters only, okay? 3 only. So I'm gonna put a little note in here. Ago means in the past, and it will be represented by a negative. Okay, and it will be represented by a negative number. Okay, now, so this is applying it to a scenario. But now I'm just gonna give you a function, and I'm gonna ask you to evaluate for some information, okay? For example, if I give you f of x is equals to 2x plus 5, I'm gonna ask you to find f of 2, f of 5, and f of negative 1. So in here, what you're gonna do is replace, and it's just different data for different information for each one. You're gonna find the value. Again, this can represent any scenario, like I have $5 and then I save $2 every week or every day. It doesn't really matter, but now you're just applying it into a function so that you can find the total that you have in here. So for the first one, I would say f of 2 is equals to 2 times the value of x plus 5. 2 times 2 is 4 plus the value, plus 5, and 4 plus 5 is 9. So all you're doing is just replacing this in your x and simplifying this side. Okay, so f of 2 is 9. For f of 5, I'm replacing that by 5. The rest stays the same. And so I'm going to say 2 times 5 is 10 plus 5, which is equals to 15. Okay, so f of 5 is 15. So if I was talking about money again, like the scenario I just thought about, it means that after 5 days I would have $15. After 2 days I would have $9. This means 1 day before, 1 day in the past. So f of -1 is equals to 2 times -1 plus 5, -2 plus 5, which is equals to 3. So that means that in here it means that I have $5, but 1 day ago I had only $3. Okay. Okay, another example. Sometimes you're going to have more than one value, and we saw it when we were doing, for the previous lesson, highlighters and erasers and pencils and pens, notebooks or something like that. So you have more than one. So if I'm given the function, and again, these can be very different variables, g of x and y is equals to 2x plus 3y. Meaning maybe I have, maybe these represent boxes and bags of oranges, and like how many oranges I would have if I bought a certain number of boxes and a certain number of bags, maybe, I don't know. So what if I ask you to find g of 1 and 2, g of 2 and 1, g of 0 and 0, and g of 4 and -2. So if you look at this order, if I had y first and then x, that would be okay, but that means that the first one will be representing the y and the second on the x. But in here, the variable is x, so you have to keep the order. It means that the first number is always going to be x, your second number will always be y. And so for the first one, I'm going to start g of 1 and 2 is equals to 2 times 1 plus 3 times 2, and 2 times 1 is 2, 3 times 2 is 6, and 2 plus 6 is 8. So that will be my first value. So my g of 1 and 2 is equals to 8. Meaning if I buy one box of oranges and 2 bags of oranges, I'm going to have a total of 8 oranges. So this represents how many oranges there are per box. But if I only buy one box, then I'm going to have 2 oranges. If I have, and then in here, it represents that the bags have 3 oranges each bag. So if I buy 2 bags, 2 times 3 is 6 oranges, and so together I have the 8 oranges. G of 2 and 1 is equals to 2 times 2 plus 3 times 1. So if I have 2 bags with 2 oranges, I have 4 oranges, plus 1 bag with 3 oranges, it's 3 oranges, and so that will be 7 oranges. Okay, again, you don't have to think of scenarios, you can just apply it. Let me just go with the next one without explaining with bags or boxes. G of 0, 0 means that I replace the 0 and the 0 for x and y. So 2 times 0 plus 3 times 0 is equals to 0 plus 0, which gives me 0. What would that represent if it was related to those oranges I was talking about? Maybe you can think about that. The last one is g of 4 negative 2 equals 2 times x, but x is 4, plus 3 times y, but y is negative 2. And that's equals to 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So that means that I have 2. What would that represent? And here it represents that I buy 0 bags, 0 boxes and 0 bags. So that's why I have 0 oranges. And here it says that I have 4 boxes times 2 is 8. But then I owe 2 bags of 3 each. That means I owe 6 oranges. So I have to take away those 6 oranges that I owe, and that's why I only have 2. Even though I had 8 in the bag, I have to pay those that I owe, so I end up with 2. Okay? So now you're ready to actually do 6.2.